Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of MTG Study Hall Quarantine Edition. I, as always, am one of your hosts, Brett, and I am joined by JC, Lily, and Dave. Tam is not on mic due to a few technical difficulties, but we are going to persevere. We're going to take care of the bookkeeping, and again, since Tam is off mic, we are going to do that really quick. First, I want to say a quick thank you to our sponsors, Cards Custom Build, Nuclear Ink, Skate Shop and Tattoos, or Tattoos and Skate Shop. Dex Protection, one of our new sponsors, as well as Inked Gaming, and there will be more information below and in the ad break later on. We also want to say a quick thank you to our Patreon junior sponsors and above, and JC, I believe you have the list ready for that?
I do. So just to thank our Patreon junior sponsors and above, 80, Andrew Dang, Anthony Albano, Bryce Rathsack, Chris Miner, Clay Cardwell, Jay Rogers, Jarrett Hubbard, John Stone, Justin Farst, Kat Maria, Kevin Broberg, Lucinda Letica, Oki Mao, Paul Casagrande, Peyton Kiker, Samantha Stevens, the baddest bitch around, I like that, Theodora Ruiz, and Tyler Zane Pease. Much appreciated, much love. Thank you.
Was the baddest bitch around the title of one of our people, or we are now being sponsored by the baddest bitch around? Okay.
Most of Meat Canyon's videos are incredibly upsetting. He is some kind. So,
all right, Tam, why don't you give us the go ahead? Also, let me know if we're still in. Yeah, I think Tam might have to get us put back up there. Man, I'm really looking forward to when we can just do this in person again.
It'll be pretty. Well, I mean, I believe Rick had said that everything's fine now. That we can start reopening the state, despite the fact that our wave just fucking started. So everything sucks.
Number one.
Fucking.
Like, so everyone's starting to open things back up, and then like a bunch of new research came out that like doubles the death toll. And it's just yeah, maybe we shouldn't do that.
It's amazing that people are saying, well, I don't see why we should continue all this stuff. We only have 79 people that have died from it in Nebraska.
We might be back.
Yeah, we only had 79 because everybody started doing the isolation thing. We're back. Yay!
Okay. I'm not sure exactly where we cut, but I just we're doing what we're doing in Magic, and Lily let everybody know that she is 20 cards away from being done with her custom set.
Oh, that's the first draft. I'm going to send it to my more to my developer-y friends, including you.
Which it's fun getting to play developer. It's fun to just be able to be like, this seems too powerful for uncommon. I feel it's a lot of fun. So I do invite those messages. Anything else or just mostly that at the moment?
I've been playing that Lura stack on standard that you were playing a couple weeks ago.
Speaking of standard and Lura's, Dave, what have you been doing?
I felt like that I'd been dying for the last couple of nights. The last several nights, and completely fucked up my sleep schedule. So I really haven't been playing like at all. Unfortunately, I'm actually feeling like I'm one of the few people that will fuck up their sleep schedule by waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Ooh.
Yeah. Waking up at 8, going to bed at 1 in the morning. What the fuck is wrong with me? But I should have enough caffeine to put myself back on the bullshit schedule. So we'll see. I plan, so long as I don't like immediately hit a wall once we're done here, I'm probably gonna like get something to eat and then queue up the stream again since I'm not working tonight, and I can kind of like ease my way back into what I think is a more reasonable sleep schedule, and normal people don't. So.
Are you still jamming Luris right now?
Yes, since I'm still that baller on a budget, and Luris is still fine. I mean it's dumb. I've had a couple of people, at least one person in particular, send me messages on the side via Facebook, being like, "Yeah, this deck's stupid. I keep winning. I can't. Like, this is. They should not have printed this card."
Well, good. Glad Luris is still working out. JC, what have you been doing in Magic this past week?
Trying to figure out how to get Chandelier installed, which is more difficult than you would think it would be. Windows 10 and old game, that happens. Also, just really enjoying a lot of the companion art and some of the fan art of the companions, and trying to stay away from any bad fan art of the companions because, it's the internet.
Yeah.
So, yep.
Yeah. That seems reasonable. Well, good. Happy to hear that there's some positive companioning related things going on as opposed to the rest of the internet having a sustained 3-week-long meltdown. I have been jamming standard in my off time, having a lot of fun. I put a lot of money into Arena, and it's finally kind of all added up. So I have most of the relevant standard cards. So anytime somebody posts a weird janky brew on Reddit, I've just been playing it. I finally broke down yesterday and actually built a tier 1 deck that is stomping, and I just rolled into platinum right before we started recording, actually. So that's fun. Now that I'm platinum, I can go back to playing jank. Brawling with Brett's going good. We got like 7 people watching, some of whom I don't actually even know in real life. So that's a plus.
Yeah. Well, I know WinCon was watching me stream for a while. That's the only person that I don't know that's been on the stream that I've seen in the chat. That shows up regularly. So
somebody yesterday coming on who was from Wisconsin, who I hadn't met before, and it was a lot of fun hanging out in chat. It was a Fire Lord with a complicated amount of D's or with extra letters, but I think it was Fire Lord, who was a lot of fun. Gave me a deck idea, and we're gonna be building Kenrith Kenrith dumb emergency powers. Wheeling with the enchantment that makes you gold tokens when your opponent draws. So we're going to build a weird Kenrith deck and play that next week. So Brawn with Brett's going really good, jamming standard, and finally pre-ordered my paper Ikoria cards from Krypton Comics, which, oh boy, it's been a while since I could buy Magic cards because I bought a lot of Magic cards. So bought a lot of paper cards, very excited to get to mess with them. Oh yeah, I also bought these couple Battle Bond packs off Amazon that I mentioned. Those came in, so me and Kat are going to jam with these at some point this week and have a good time.
I'm kind of mad I missed the giving you a custom person for I'm failing on this. Move along.
One thing I do want to throw out, if you're watching live, or if anyone in the audience, if any of you guys want to remember, Godzilla Secret Lair is live right now. So if you want the Godzilla Allowance, order today, because that is happening right now. I ordered mine today. I was teetering on the brink, but per our conversation a couple weeks ago, I am now going to build a commander deck that has crazy, expensive, cool pimpin' lands, but everyone's going to be different. So I'm going to have a different, weird specialty land in each slot. So I'm going to give that a go.
That sounds painful.
I have a lot. I've acquired. I mean, I'm not going to be like, I'm going to get the Guru lands. Like, it's just going to be like different foil full arts or this, that, or the other thing. So it should be relatively.
I didn't realize they were themselves Japanese.
Yes, they are in Japanese. The text
okay.
is. And yeah, I got the
artist too.
So anyone who wants those, and if you're watching this not live, that's why you should watch the show live, because we will remind you when Secret Lairs are live. So we are going to roll into our first topic for tonight, which is going to be, I have to decide which one we're doing first. Legend rule. We're going to talk about the legend rule. We're going to continue we were talking about errata and rules changes in our previous weeks, and so we touched on this some last week, but we realized it's really a topic's worth of stuff. So we're going to talk about rule and how that has changed, how it came about, and how it's changed, and kind of where it is at now with the game. Lily, do you want to hit us up with the history of the legend rule? I think you did a little research and pulled some stuff up.
Well, I polished up my own memory of it.
Fair enough.
Okay, so legend rule, starting off in Legends, the first set with legendary creatures, or as they were back then, they just said legend is a creature type. Only one could be in play. Any newer copies would be immediately removed initially, and then also, per this rule, up until Ice Age, which was 1995, Legends was 94, Ice Age was 95, they were also restricted, which means your deck could only have one copy. And basically up until Champions of Kamigawa, oh God, what year was it? God, I feel so old. 2004. That was how it kind of stayed.
When did the restriction end?
Hold on.
Ice Age.
Ice Age. Yeah.
Ice Age. Oh, okay.
Legends to Ice Age, they were also restricted.
Then they dropped that, and then they were just.
But they still have the same rule. If one came into play, the new one dies. The old one stays.
Okay, and then what happened at Champions?
Then they changed it so that the state-based effect, so that it falls under state-based effect. Well, I think it was before anyway, but it was if two or more permanents with the same name have the same super type legendary, all are put into their owner's graveyards. This is called legend rule. If only one is legendary, this doesn't apply.
Okay. And
so it wasn't you reduce down to one copy. It's they all die at once.
Okay.
And then this is also when the legend subtype, the legend creature type that had rules baggage went away, and they became legendary super type. Because lands and other like legendary permanents had a super type before that, but creatures did not. Creatures were like Glissa Sunseeker was creature, elf, was she a warrior, I think, legend? Like, that was weird. It says that, like, Memnarch was artifact creature. I think it was just legend, because before they had creature types and everything, right? So then Champions hits, and now it's legendary creature dash whatever. Also worth mentioning, because it's related, that's also when they did the same to the wall creature type and the defender keyword.
Yes.
So that's when they divorced all rules text from subtypes.
Yes, because Changeling is a rule printed on cards, right?
Yeah, it's a rule. It's not characteristic of the shapeshifter creature type.
Okay, that's right.
A printed shapeshifter, but then they have, I think it's a characteristic defining abilities, CDA, that gives them all creature types. Anyway.
Okay, that rabbit hole there. So then what happens after that?
So then, of another almost 10 years, Champions of Kamigawa to until Magic 2014. In 2013, it was like that. And then it happened that, sorry, hang on. So that was everybody, like, everyone's is independent. So you have yours, I have mine. And then state-based actions, they don't all die. You pick one and the rest die.
Okay. And then was that also they changed the play? That was, we still had the Planeswalker rule.
Right, Planeswalker uniqueness rule was still its own thing, although they revised it to function similarly at that point.
Okay. And then the final change in getting us caught up to where right now happened in Ixalan, right?
Not quite. So in 2017, they changed the Planeswalker rule to be functionally identical to the Legend rule, I'm pretty sure. Hold on. Yeah, that's where it kind of drops off, but Yeah, so 2017 is where they rolled that all together. Planeswalkers became legendary, legendary Planeswalker dash whatever. The Planeswalker rule went away and it just fell under the Legend rule. But otherwise, the Legend rule functioned identical to how it was revived in 2014.
Okay.
So we're about 4 years away from another revision.
That's not about right. So, JC and Dave, you guys have been playing close to somewhere in the longest, I think. So, which of the Legend rules have you guys played through in your years playing?
Yes. And with that, I mean everything but the initial one, because I had not started playing for Legends.
Okay.
So I never played with that Legend rule in particular. It's one that I was actually not aware of, so that's kind of cool, I guess. It somewhat reminiscent of games like Spellfire, things like that. But yeah, I played through all of them, aside from that.
Agree. About the same. I never played in Legends to Ice Age or anything like that. I started playing Magic the Gathering around 5th edition. So from then on, I actually kind of like some of the old Legend rules because they had this headcanon in my head that like if you meet your duplicate in a different dimension, you both explode kind of thing.
No,
I can see
classic
that.
sci-fi stuff.
Yeah. So high five with your past self, create a time paradox.
What
Sorry,
weird?
my past self would have some questions.
So I wanted to ask everybody, or at the round table / different boxes we're all trapped in. This is my personal favorite rendition of the rules, Planeswalker and Legend. I like being able to play my cards, them playing theirs. It kind of got rid of that weird, awkward, like we're playing the same deck, so now I have to, instead of like getting to use my card like I'm expecting to, now we're playing a weird sub game of who's sticking which one and how do we function without all of the cards in our deck working, or the fun game of it's tangentially bringing in the Jite to counter the opponent's Jite, or playing Jace Bellerin to kill our opponent's Jace the Mind Sculptor. I like where we're at. This is where I would keep it if I were in charge. I think this is the best it's been. How do you all feel about that? Dave, you first.
Well, I like everything with the exception of modifying the Planeswalker uniqueness rule. I really liked that you could only have one Jason play and one Liliana in play and one Chandra in play, instead of being able to have multiple versions of the same person. It goes back to the old thing with like Kamal Fist of Croatia and Kamal Pitfighter. They're both of them are Kamal. It's the same dude. Why do I get to have two of him?
Counterpoint, same set, is Corona Phage. Is Phage Jessica.
Yeah, and that's another thing right there that also kind of bugs the shit out of me. I'm like, that's Phage and Corona.
How much does somebody have to change to be a new person, Dave?
So we are on the Planeswalker of Thesis. I get at least one person watching this video will have gotten that, and that will be enough.
Oh, I got it.
I didn't get it, so
The ship of Theseus.
Yeah.
Every piece you remove.
Yes.
If you haven't seen the movie John Dies at the End,
that's where I know it from.
Yeah, it's because David Wong is still a pretty cool dude. Follow him on Twitter. But yeah, I mean that's where I'm at on it. It is more intuitive. Like I guess it's less intuitive that I can have a Garruk and you can have a Garruk. Then he's playing both sides, or we both have two different like very similar Garruks. Like, I'll suspend disbelief to some extent just for the sake of the game. But me having like multiple Garruks, that's the same dude.
So you don't want a Metal Gear Solid 3 time paradox scenario going.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't want Raiden to get put into the metal drum and punch. I can't actually. It's been too long since I saw that video, and I'll watch it again later.
If you shoot Revolver Ocelot when he's passed out in the beginning, you do get a game over scream. There's
an entire video that you can have in the director's cut of the game, which is just Raiden going through all of 3 and just getting the shit kicked out of him by very varying things. But yeah, no, it does kind of feel like a paradox to some extent. Yeah, we're playing this fantasy magic card game, but even still, Lily.
Except the flavor of summoning isn't you're bringing the actuals. Like within the flavor of the game, you, the planeswalker, are summoning vestiges, summoning magic constructs that represents things that you've encountered on different worlds that you've been to. You're not taking them with you.
Counterpoint. Accurate for creatures. The planeswalkers, the idea of they are actually sticking their head into hell.
I was literally
Okay. Sorry.
I was gonna.
My apologies.
No, I mean, but really, that's what I was saying. The planeswalkers are coming with you. So, like, I do like the planeswalker uniqueness rule. I don't like, from a gameplay element, there are two very similar things that function differently from one another. But that's kind of a Melvin Porthos thing. Like, I think if they function differently, that makes sense flavor wise.
Are you happy with where we are, or would you rather we go back to
I'm very happy where we are.
I appreciate the conflict there because it is cool when it's like this Chandra, that Chandra. However, the getting rid of that rule did allow me to run Chandra Tribal a while back, which was an absolute delight. And is apparently a deck in Historic, so I'm a jam that when Historic comes back.
Yeah, like, I mean, I've definitely even still played decks that have had multiple Lilianas in it and felt happy about it because that's the best Planeswalker. And it's cool. It was cool doing that in Modern, even. Like, that was pretty cool. But it just doesn't feel right. I don't know. It might just be one of those old classic things of it's the way we've always done it, and that might just be something in the back of my head saying, well, no, that's not how you're not supposed to do that. That's not okay. So that might just be what it is.
It is. I mean, I do think the flavor hit makes sense, but then where does it end? Because then can I play the Wanderer and Emrakul and Sarah all at once?
Listen here. You've been waiting for that, haven't you?
I actually just thought of it. I had to get it out there. JC, where do you come down?
All right, I'm about to go places, and I'm sorry in advance here. So
Go lead away.
let me get this out of the way first of all. From a gameplay perspective, I like the space we are in now. As far as how the game literally functions and to play it, I appreciate what we have now. I like what we have now. As a person, I wonder to myself that, yeah, what Lily said about you're not summoning the actual person except with the Planeswalker. You're summoning a vestige of them as a construct spell. But isn't that still if it's a spell, it's the same type of spell and the same energy of spell? Isn't it like two Kamehamehas hitting each other? Don't they just kind of hit each other and then just stay and then just blow up in the end? And so part of my brain canon is has trouble with the fact that if it's the same kind of spell, doesn't it kind of cancel each other out a little bit? So that's the nerdy place I go to. But yeah.
Are you saying does it function like Cyclops and Havoc?
Yeah.
No, this would be the opposite because they're just immune to each other's powers.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's true. They are just immune to each other's powers.
It's interesting because when I was talking about this, I was thinking about this too. I like the notion of summoning a legendary creature for you being the same as unsummoning it for everyone else.
There can be only one, so I'll pull it over to my side.
I'm going to use my magic to invoke the essence of this creature to take it away from everyone.
Yeah.
Take it away from everyone and then you get it? So a modification.
Everybody's dies.
Okay.
I don't think it leads to good gameplay.
That's fair. Yeah, then we end up with dumb things like Phantasmal Image, which was cited in exactly what you had posted in the group chat as to one of the reasons for the legendary rule change. They didn't want it to be a copy of either the best creature in play or a hero's demise, or whatever that card from Kamigawa was.
God,
I totally agree.
a hell of a Magic card.
From a play perspective, where we are is really nice. But yeah, I really kind of agree with Lily. I think if everyone's throwing the exact same power level Kamehameha into the center of the ring, they all just cancel out and explode.
Well, the Kamehamehas normally don't do that. They one will inevitably get stronger than the other and overwhelm them. And,
when you said that,
and then Goku has to use the Spirit Bomb.
See, when you said that, I pictured I'd pictured them going, and then I'm like, what if we had a sub game then? Whoever puts more mana into theirs, so then you can just tap out all your mana and push your Kamehameha wave. And then I had to picture the one that lost. I was trying to decide how they die, and if it was best if it was an Avengers Fade to Dust, or if it was like some kind of horrifying mutated blobby explosion. And then I pictured Chandra exploding in a weird gore explosion, and then I got sad. So that's a quick.
That's the right.
What happened to my mind for 30 seconds there during that conversation. You're all welcome.
Just a quick aside. Kamal Pitfighter and Kamal Fist of Crotia, Kamal in general, I really wanted him to be a planeswalker. I really wanted him to get the spark because he was just a badass dude. He was, as they say, a legend.
His sister got it? Yeah.
His sister did get it. I think they should both get it. I think it should be a family thing.
You can't have two siblings. Jessica, who got animated on stage, who then got merged with a Chroma into Corona.
Whenever I hear the old guard of Magic players at Krypton talking about how good the story used to be, I can't take it seriously.
This is like right before Mirrodin too. Like I don't know. It was weird. Like in my head, that's like a different era than the Mirrodin stuff, but really it's not. You have pre-time spiral and post-time spiral.
The mending is very much like, because I was playing a little bit pre-mending, but like I really got into it. I remember vividly the Planar Chaos pre-release. I'm pretty pro. You put that down.
I remember vividly the Lorwyn pre-release.
I just encourage y'all to look into how Sarah died. It's tragic. There we go.
Don't you mean how she got her
old
spark?
book too?
Don't you mean how she got her spark and or became Emrakul? Okay. So something I wanted to bring up on this topic before we rolled off is, so Legend is a downside mechanic. It's outside, obviously, things that care about it matter, but it's a downside mechanic. It's you put it on a card and it makes a card worse because you can't run multiple copies in the deck. So back in the day, nowadays new players will be like, why isn't this card or that card legendary? This would be such a great legendary. And they'll say, well, before Commander got big and made us all the money in the world, it was just downside. So we didn't put it on the Nephilim because we didn't need to make the Nephilim worse. We didn't put it on that 5-color angel from Alara because we didn't want to make that card worse. And so now there's this weird, the legend rule mattering for Commander has pushed the game in interesting ways. And Mark Rosewater has pitched getting rid of the baggage that comes with a legendary card, saying legendary is it's just like a creature type thing. Some cards will care about it, but it won't have rules defining characteristics. If we need to put a rule on a card, if having multiple copies of the same card would cause a problem, we'd create a new rule that we would just put that rule into the text so it functioned like it used to. But where do you guys come down on that, on the idea of divorcing that there can be only one, and just because if they do that, then they can print way more stuff as legendary, is what Maro's arguing. Then the Commander players get way more stuff, and they don't have to have this battle between, we want this to matter for Constructed, but this would be cool to give to Commander. So where do y'all come down on that? JC, you first. What are your thoughts?
My thought is kind of like similar to the ability to ban and things of that nature. I think R&D needs tools that are downside tools to be able to limit like power creep and power level of things. If a card is that good, you slap a legendary tag on it to give it a bit of a downside to kind of rein it in a little bit. And I think taking that tool away from people, plus it's a really flavorful tool. And I could see the argument of divorcing the actual R&D tool from the flavor tool. But I kind of like them together, and I think that tool should be in the research and development's toolbox.
Okay. Lily, where do you come down?
I would not want to decouple it for like 6 different reasons.
What are 3 of them? Go.
Okay, so the biggest one has to do with the precedent that they've set. When you update cards, like, is every legendary creature now not unique? Like, let's say they made unique like an ability word on the card that was a drawback, and then legendary super type is just a super type. I mean, okay, but why is it the only super type that doesn't actually have any game mechanic like function? But the big thing is, like, old legends, are they like, when you went and said every legend creature type is now legendary creature blank, every single one was treated the same, and new cards are like, all right, well, this is legendary creature. It's just like when they were creature legend. But the like, and while cards might look different, new and old, there's two different things that both mean the same thing. However, I think we get into a situation that's more like the Planeswalker redirection rule. If you say, all right, well, some of these new legendary creatures are legendary, but they don't have unique. But some of these older ones that don't say unique on them are unique. Like, I think it leads to too much complication.
Okay, so is it, if you could go back in time and start it from the beginning, would you just have legend be a flavor point and that would matter for commander, and then use unique, or do you think it serves a purpose like JC said, where it's nice to have the downside mechanic as well?
I don't think commander would have happened if there wasn't a downside to it. I think a lot of the reason they were able to print cool, evocative, powerful, legendary creatures is because they had that as a gauge. I don't think you get commander happening without legendary letting them push card design.
Okay, that seems fair. All right, Dave, where do you come down? Would you be okay with that, or are you happy with how things are in the legend rule?
I think it's fine where we're at with the legend rule. If they wanted to modify it, they've set the precedent that they can. I mean, they've specifically the brothers Yamazaki. That's a legend that allows you to have multiple of itself in play, but instead of, well, you can only have one of this card in play, you can have two of this one in play. It feels like if they want to way around the legendary rule for legendary permanence and say, like, if they wanted to create some sort of enchantment and make it so that the flavor of it is, well, this is a seal and there are 3 seals, so you can have 3 of this card in play, but you can't have a 4th. That's not okay. Or like what they did with the 7 dwarfs. Have some sort of like special rule for that as well. Like, it's a legendary permanent, you can have X copies in your deck, and you can only have Y amount in play at a time, or something along those lines. I think if they wanted a way around the legendary rule, they can still print it as a legendary, as a legendary permanent, but then put in that additional like disclaimer that in the rules text saying this is an exception to how you would normally play it.
Okay.
And you need a.
I think there's a Jace that does that too, isn't there?
Kind of. He makes tokens that are copies of himself, except they're not legendary. But Dave, in that example, it is absolutely easier to do that if there is a base way the legend rule works, rather than like if some legends are unique and some aren't, and then some is like, well, this is unique but only 3. That's more complicated than saying these all work one way, and then this subset works a different way, but they say specifically when they do that.
Yeah. It's like it's one of those. I don't think that you'd want to do it a lot. I think that you'd want to keep that as a very uncommon thing, but it's something, like we've done it at least once before with the brothers Yamazaki.
Mm-hmm.
And that one was kind of cool. And side note for that one, there are 2 different artworks for that card, and I didn't know that for a very long time.
It's not just mirrored.
What I'm hearing, Dave, is bring back Stang.
Maybe.
That's Stang Twin, though.
I am going to take a really bold stance on this and agree with you all. Maro's pitched this before. I don't like it. I like the legend rule as it is. I understand it does create a little bit of conflict in card design when you have to decide if we want to if we want a card to be playable in standard versus commander. But even now that we have Brawl as well, and Brawl seems to be here to stay, particularly with Arena, like, I think it creates enough interesting, unique stuff. I wouldn't want to get rid of it. And I completely agree with you, Lily, that the whole, well, what's unique and what isn't. And now we just have, if you only pick a few, because like also, we're just talking creatures, but imagine every legendary land not being legendary anymore. So do we give it unique to all the lands? And so are all planeswalkers unique because you don't want to double up on planeswalkers? And then we've got a lot of weird stuff. And then is unique, does it need to be in the body of the card, or do we put it in a new spot? And now, I feel like if you could go back in time and start Magic brand spanking new with everything we've learned, maybe. I think there's a lot of Maro's done some really interesting what if articles about like giving spells type like fire or ice, but like trying to do it with two with 20,000 unique game
Well-
pieces already in existence, I'd rather keep it as it
But that's even a different thing, because giving subtypes to spells can matter for other things too. Whereas legendary is like, okay, yeah, you can have stuff that cares about legends, but like outside of that, like it represents your unique. I don't agree with the idea. Okay, so subtypes that don't have any inherent meaning, I'm fine. Subtypes are basically flavor text half the time.
One sec, really quick. I just want to make sure. Tam, are we still recording? Are you still with us, buddy? We're having a little bit of an issue with the live stream.
I don't see him on the grid.
Oh, he's typing. I think.
Oh,
we're
wait,
okay.
yeah, that's him. He's the timer. Duh.
Okay. So I just wanted to make sure we are good. I don't want to lose anything on the recording. Okay, live cast is being crappy. Apologize to anyone watching live. We're doing our best, and we will have the full show up as usual on Patreon, which is more work for Tam, but that's Tam's lot in life. So we will have the full show available on Patreon. We apologize for any live show issues. Do we have any final thoughts? I want to kind of wrap this one up.
Yeah, there's I'm just against the notion of putting a word on a card that only matters for an external format.
Okay. I think that's reasonable. Flavor, and I'm okay with a little bit of conflict with standard versus commander to get the flavor and to maintain the rules in a reasonable way and to keep our cards coherent. Dave, JC, or Lily, any additional final thoughts to that before we move over to our other topic?
Yeah, no final thoughts. Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, downsides are important for the health of a game. So I don't think something being a downside is bad.
I completely agree, and I'm actually going to throw downside mechanics onto the topic list because I think there's some interesting things to talk about there.
Yeah, cumulative upkeep.
So we're going to throw downside mechanics on the soon to deal with list, and we are going to move on to our next topic. But before we do that, we are going to throw this over to a quick ad break. So we will see you right after that ad break now.
This week's sponsor is Nuclear Ink Custom Tattoo and Skate Shop. At Nuclear Ink, you will find a very inclusive environment with artists that share your interest in nerd culture and fandoms alike. Nuclear Ink prides themselves in being Omaha's premier all-custom tattoo shop. So if you're looking to get a custom tattoo, please check out Nuclear Ink here in Omaha, Nebraska. A link will be in the description down below. We're also sponsored by InkedGaming.com. Are you looking to get a custom playmat? Well, then we suggest you check out InkedGaming.com. They have custom playmats, dice bags, mouse pads, and so much more. They even recently added a stitch option to their playmat and mouse pads as well. Stop those frayed edges from happening. Inked Gaming lets you play your game with your style, and if you want to get 10% off of your entire order, use the code TCG University, all caps, no spaces at checkout, and help support us by customizing your game to your style. Cards Custom Builds. Are you into cosplay? Looking to get into cosplay? Do you want to show up to events dressed as your favorite character? Well, then Cards Custom Build can help. Cards Custom Build creates everything from cosplay accessories like props, trinkets, or weaponry, all the way up to full-blown costumes. Do you want to make a perfectly flowing cloth, or maybe want rigid battle armor? Cards Custom Build has you covered. The work is guaranteed to make you the talk of the con. So go over to Cards Custom Build on either Facebook or on their Etsy account. Links will be in the description down below. And make sure you mention TCG University to get 5% off your entire order. And lastly, the show is brought to you by Dex Protection. Dex Protection is on a never-ending pursuit to create the highest quality storage and protection accessories. Their design and innovation comes from die-hard gamers and collectors just like you. So they know what you want in the products that you buy. They're constantly taking in feedback from their customers, and they have no plans to stop their innovations or their drive to refine the products until they're recognized as a leader in their industry. They make terrific products, all with the avid gamer and collector in mind. So go ahead and check them out. The link will be in the description down below.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back. So we are going to move on to our next topic, and it's a kind of a broad topic, but I think it's one that is not discussed enough, and that is blocking. So we're going to talk about blocking. Blocking, for those of you who don't, I feel like if you're in this far into the show, ideally you know what blocking is, but that is part of the combat step where you put your creatures in front of their creatures to stop their creatures from dealing damage to you. So this is kind of a broad topic, and I can't remember who threw this one out there. Dave, did you throw this one out?
No. I don't think
Tam did, actually.
Tam did. Okay.
Kind of. Then I I doubled down on it because people seem to have things to say on it.
So Tam threw it out there and you ran in front of it?
Yeah.
So, who wants to start us out on blocking? I'm feeling a little intimidated by the scope of this topic. Who wants to go?
Who are you talking with? Sorry.
Still
I'm just making
banding.
more jokes.
No. The thing that I like about blocking and the thing that combat. So, blocking is one of the most poker mind game parts of the game of Magic to me personally. It's the part of the game where you are, at least in a standard or 1v1 kind of setting, it is the point in the game where you are playing most against your opponent rather than playing against like really the design of your cards. And that's one of the things I really like about blocking. I mean, obviously there's a lot of considerations with board state. So like obviously you're not always playing the players. They're forced into the situation that they're in. They literally can't block, or they literally have to block because they'll die. You know, so like in those situations you're not really playing against the player. But I feel like a lot of like kind of mid games and ramp areas and stuff like that, that's really the part of the game that feels a little bit less mechanical and a little bit more like reads and stuff like that, and thinking through possibilities.
No, and when you were talking about that, something that could cross my mind. Like, there's a ton of back and forth, and like particularly when mana's up. So not only are you dealing with the combat that's happening, but you're dealing with any instant speed tricks that the opponent might have. And upon reflection, that is the point of the game that I've probably spent the most time thinking. Like if you look at all of like the my play speed on a game, this place I am going to consistently take the most time to plot out what I'm going to do is going to be when I'm blocking.
Right. Even like countering a spell is mostly just like a it's like only a couple chains past like a binary yes or no decision.
Yeah, no, is this do I have are they can I counter this spell? Is this the right time to use my counter spell? Is there something else that might be coming? How many more resources do I have to stop them? But no, blocking has a hell of a lot going on. And I think one of the things that I think that maybe we mentioned last week, I think it's also one of the hardest things in the game to do correctly and do well consistently, because there are just so many things going on.
Because you overlook things. It's like how the really good chess players are against the really bad chess players. It's just who's considering more moves in advance. Kind of thing. And I think that comes into blocking is like how well you're considering how many tricks they may have, how much mana they have open, what they may do, and like that kind of situation. Is this attack just a feint? Like things like that.
And so I have my creatures. What kind of clock am I on? So if I'm in particular, this I feel like this comes up a lot in limited too. It's my opponent's established a clock on me, let's say, which when I say the opponent's established a clock, that means my opponent has a consistent way to keep dealing damage to me. An easy example is my opponent has a flyer. Maybe the ground's gummed up and my opponent doesn't have great attacks and I don't have great attacks, except my opponent has a 2/2 with flying and I don't have any flyers or creatures with reach, which means that if I'm at 10 and they have a 2/2 flyer, I am on a 5-turn clock. I have to do something or the game's going to end in 5 turns. But oftentimes it's more murky than that, because I've got to decide, do I want to block? Do I want to double or triple block? Which is also something that I think particularly newer players will struggle with. It's deciding how to use my resources to keep myself alive. And then I have to think about, if I spend this creature and they decide to kill this creature instead of this creature, what does that put their clock on? Does that stop me from going forward with my game? Are they going to run away with this game? And then after all of the stuff that's just on board that we talked about, they have mana open. What tricks do they have available? What's the card pool? Is it a standard card pool? Is it limited? How much mana do they have open? Are they playing a pump spell? Are they playing a removal spell? Because if I go into double block and they remove one of my creatures, I'm going to get totally blown out and lose this game. I mean, I think that happened yesterday in Brawling with Brett. I made a reasonable double block where I would have had to give up a card I wanted to keep. They had a removal spell, and I got absolutely hammered and lost that game from that block.
So I think it is worth mentioning, Brad, that even the thing that you're talking about here is like an advanced player consideration. So more than anything else, more than playing cards correctly, more than playing my cards at the right moment, the biggest difference when I play against inexperienced players, and the place that it comes up the most, is in how they attack, when they attack, and how they block and when they block. I have like had games where I'm just like, this is a bad attack, but you're doing it. I don't know why you're doing it. Okay, sorry, even when I know there's no trick, it's like, okay, you must be kind of new here. I mean, I hate to be that person, but like, that's a thing that I don't think players get straight away, that players like understand. And that's even a few steps before the thing you just described. Like, what you're talking about is just the interaction between two players of a similar skill level. Actually, hold a high level, because two low level players are not going to think about it either.
No, that's fair. And I sometimes I get caught up on, oh, I've been playing this long, but understanding just what's on the board. And then how many times have we all seen someone mess up first strike, mess up death touch, not appreciate
how I do it.
It's a complicated game.
First strike. Whoops.
No, and like it's when I play limited with like as what we call it, the brain trust, when we've got me and a couple friends on Discord, blocking is where we stop and we go, because I'm normally a pretty fast player, but in arena, that's where we burn the clock down. That's where we go, okay, what are we doing here? What could we have? How do we order this? But no, I think it's probably the point of the game that has the most interaction. Now, obviously, there's instant speed removal, there's spells you can play at each other, stuff like that. But that is the point when the most pieces are coming together to meet. And it's a really complicated part of the game.
And
go ahead.
I think even in franchise players, especially ones that have been playing a long time, no offense to Dave or JC, those that have been playing back when creatures were bad too, I don't think they appreciate how much complexity there is just in, we've got a board, I've got a bunch of 3/3s, Brett's got a bit more 2/2s. What happens? Like, there's so many complicated lines of play there. It's like, and you just have these basic creatures, like vanilla creatures, and their interactions on the battlefield are complicated, more complicated than any spell or mechanic. You can't, it is like, I think it is the biggest reason why you can't have an AI play Magic.
Yeah, I mean, you can make a really good chess robot. You can't make a really good Magic robot.
Like, I think it's telling that the Horde Magic variant, where it's like a PvE encounter, specifically doesn't block.
Yeah, the stuff just goes all out. Because I mean, you couldn't come up with an easy rule set for that at all. Dave, do you have any thoughts? Do you want to weigh in with anything? Do you have any thoughts? It's kind of a broad topic, I realize.
Yeah, I mean, as far as blocking goes, I think the only thing that comes to mind immediately is when I will end up heckling faceless opponents as being on the no attacks, no blocks plan, which is something that a buddy of mine used to grief me for when I was getting good at this game. Here's the scenario. Let's say I've got a 2/1 flyer in play. You've got a 3/3 on the ground. No abilities on your 3/3. I know that you don't have any way to use that 3/3 to kill my 2/1 flyer. And obviously, I can't block and have a profitable trade because I have no I have no tricks either. Mm-hmm. So what a lot of people end up doing is just not attacking, period, and then not blocking. So you have this 2/1 flyer that you could just be getting some damage in with, and it's just sitting there looking pretty. As opposed to just turning it sideways, getting in for that damage, and then figuring out a plan on what to do with that 3/3 later. That's something that a lot of newer players will end up doing. They'll just keep the 2/1 there for value. Like they're just not doing it. Like, why play it if you weren't going to attack with it? Like, this is why you're playing this card, to get in that damage your opponent can't do anything about, and then maybe you get to trade later. You might get to trade up for it later.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's an interesting observation, Dave. I think on the whole, the question you should always be asking is, why am I not attacking? And the question you should be asking always is, why would I block? But I think new players a lot of times get those mixed, and they're like, well, I should always be blocking, but why should I be attacking?
No, and that's actually the blocking at the wrong time. That's a really good point, because how many times does your opponent explodes out ahead of you and is bashing you with a 5/5, and you have a 3/3, but you're at, let's say, 17 life. Do not block the 5/5 with the 3/3. You are
we're not in chump territory yet.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's weird. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna point out that unless you know for a fact they're about to infuriate Embercleave you, And even then, blocking probably doesn't help. So
I do, on a very side note, I do appreciate Embercleave taking some difficulty out of the game, because if I go, I think about my blocks, and then I think about my blocks if they have the Embercleave, and then I realize it doesn't matter if they have the Embercleave. It doesn't matter how I block. I'm fucking dead.
As
So
soon as they spoiled that card, I distinctly remember saying, and that's the card that I'm going to get really bent out of shape about for the next year and some change. Fuck that card.
no, yeah, it's
Did you not block right? Guess what? You got punished. There wasn't a right answer.
you almost always
Nice
block.
mythic.
You almost always block like they don't have the Embercleave, because trying to block like they do is a losing proposition.
Right.
I've gotten somebody with it like once or twice on stream, but that was like in the middle of the night where they probably weren't thinking clearly, and I'm going, motherfucker, this is amp number 6. You're not winning. I see through your clever tricks.
But
I think to Lily's point there too, like about like asking yourself like, why am I not attacking, is like a really important question. And what Dave was talking about, like, it rather reminds me of old school like money managers who are like, you put all your money in like an investment and you just leave it sitting there instead of like making active moves with it, making your money work for you. The value of the card is in that, like, what you can do with it at the time. I think, and I won't espouse to be a good Magic player at all, because I'm really not. But like I feel like a lot of what I've learned is that a lot of playing Magic is trying to get in damage wherever you can, and stopping your opponent from doing those little tiny nicks at you that get you all of a sudden, I'm at 7. Well, fuck, how the fuck did that happen? Like,
that is super prevalent in the current limited format. No, it's I've been playing a lot of Akori, and so sometimes it's like, oh, I need to draft this decks with play with these value creatures and get all this morph stuff, and then I'll get run over by someone who is running 3 1 drops and 5 2 drops, and I go like, when I get to turn 6, you're gonna, I'm dead. I'm dead because I didn't have the opportunity to interact
fuck,
here.
I'm at 7. What happened?
Just wait till I get my Leviathan. Is that the line from Timmy?
It is,
I feel like
and
that's the line from Timmy.
And it's a mantra that I probably shouldn't live by, but I really have for the past long time of playing Magic. 2000, what was it? 2004? 16 years of playing Magic? Yeah.
No,
Is that better or worse than? Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is it better or worse than Math is for Blockers?
Is that why I'm good at blocking? I don't know. I don't spend a ton of time thinking about blocking. It's usually just like, that's the correct thing, and then I do it because I trust like my brain working behind the scenes. I think it's interesting though. I think it is odd to me that such an important part of the game is something that you usually shouldn't be doing unless you have to.
No, and that's the thing, because if both players are playing, if both players are on a similar level of skill, you're generally, ideally you aren't making bad attacks with information on the board. So unless you're trying to elicit a trade, which sometimes happen, but even when a trade's happening, a lot of times, like yesterday, I bashed in with I was playing a Winota deck. I bashed in with a 1/1, and they blocked with their Paradise Druid, which I was thrilled about. I wouldn't have made the attack if I didn't want them to block with the Paradise Druid. I made the attack thinking, I'll get a little damage in because they won't block with the Paradise Druid, and then they did, and it was like, oh, that was
Right?
weird.
Okay, you block with your lamb. Thanks.
Like, yeah, exactly. But it's one of those. Yeah, I didn't even really think about that, because you blocking. You do it when they're forced to, or they do it when there's a trick you have. Now limited's a little different, because limited sometimes you just go, I'm going to try to trade resources into their resources, and hopefully I'll come out with higher resources. Standard, it gets a little wonkier, but yeah, no, it's a weird thing that is, you don't think about how complicated it is to the game, but it is one of the most complicated things that happens in the entire game. The attack step.
I honestly think it's one of the steps that, like, if you want to get really good at Magic the Gathering, understand blocking and attacking and the value of the creatures that you have on the board. Like, really pay attention to that step of the game.
Yeah, that's this, and you do that stuff long before you start thinking about what cards are in the format, what tricks might they have in their hand. Like, yeah, you've got to just have a mastery of the basics. How do I do this here and there? And Lil, you brought up it's a little bit of a tangent, but I think it's relevant enough. It happens, the whole like, why am I not attacking thing? I think yes, a subset of players who suffer a lot from this are commander players. because
Like your beloved spouse.
yeah, yes, that's fair. I think that's a fair assessment. When you play
Love
limited,
you, Ray. Don't hate me.
they can't hear you right now. It's okay. They don't know we're talking smack. When you play a lot of limited, it's all in the attacking. It's all in the attack step. It's all in the blocking step. That's Lily's talking about your lack of desire to ever attack while playing Commander.
So I was about to Facebook message them and say, hey, Brett's talking shit.
No, they gave me a look. And Ray argued they have built some more aggressive decks recently.
They have. I'm trying to pull that.
But
Well,
the
that's
limited
it.
and standard and stuff, the game is normally won and lost in the attack step. Oftentimes in Commander, the game is won with some weird combo or some weird explosion of value or some weird, I'm going to spell you for 80. And so you don't think about, like, when you're in that mid phase of the game from turn 4 to turn 7, where if your play group isn't super aggressive and everyone's playing utility creatures and additional spells, you should probably be bashing and getting life totals.
Oh my god, that's why
turn shit sideways.
That's why Thantis was such a fuck up for you guys when I started playing it, because it's like you guys were never attacking, and I'm just like, well, shit, they got to attack with the creatures that they're never going to attack with. They can't profit off of this.
I remember playing. That's that dumb spider that makes everyone attack. And when Lily was playing the attack, and I got annoyed. I was pissed. It's like, what are you making me do attacking with my creatures? I play these for value-related reasons, and I'm going to kill you on turn
You turn
10.
creatures sideways.
No, and then like it's always nice to have JC come play with us because it's like, oh yeah, JC's going to turn dinosaurs sideways fast. JC isn't going to sit here and build some dumb value engine like the rest of us do.
Well, I mean, that's actually a thing that, like, I actually feel bad sometimes when I'm playing Commander with y'all because I'm a very much like I'm sorry, I don't want to make anyone mad at the table. I try to spread out my attacks to everyone, but like I'm gonna turn stuff sideways.
Oh Lord, yeah. Like I have dirtily grindy Commander decks, but also a lot of my Commander decks trend on the aggressive side.
I have a bad habit of most of my Commander wins are not with Commander damage unless I'm playing Perforos. Most of the time, I'm playing a bunch of things and drawing a bunch of cards or throwing a bunch of things in the yard, and then I'll say, and then I play this card and this card, and most of the games end when I kind of reveal a card and everyone just goes at the same time starts picking their decks up.
Right. I think
how much is that Torrent of Hail file for? 56. All right, next game.
So like another part of this too is the chip damage does make the games end when they get to the point where people become threats. If you're not doing chip damage, it never gets, like, by the time somebody's comboing out, they are too high in their life total for you to kill them to keep them from doing the thing. You need to be attacking. You need to be attacking more in every format, every game. Like, attack more.
No, and Lily, I think the best mantra now, it's Magic. There's always going to be corner cases, but for everyone out there who wants to improve in any format, I think a great way to go is, why am I not attacking? Why am I blocking? And just to break down a couple of those, why am I not the 2/1 flying creature versus a 3/3 on the ground is the perfect example of why am I not attacking? What is my creature doing? Does it have an activated ability I can use? Is it preventing my opponent from attacking me and lowering my life total while I dig to a card that I want to draw? If the answer to those questions is no, you're attacking with it. If it's going to stay alive, if you aren't spending that resource. Now, if they have a blocker, maybe you don't attack. But no, they're open in the sky. I can't interact with their ground creature with this thing in a positive way. Why am I not attacking with it? And for blocking, those newer players who, they're swinging a big creature in, let me chump block this turn. Why are you blocking? Are you going to die if that happens? Are you going to die next turn if that happens? Are you afraid of some trick? Because you should keep your resource in play because you might draw something to answer their big creature. If you're at 17 and they swing you into 5 and bring you to 12, and then you draw the removal spell and kill your 5/5, great. You still have your 3/3, and now you're on board position. But if you jumped with your 3/3, your 3/3 died, you drew your removal, you took the creature out, now you're both in top deck mode. So why am I blocking? What is this block going to do that's going to help me win the game? Those are two easy little rules that I think in most situations are going to help guide you to making the right path.
In pretty much every format.
Yeah, no, I think that's, and I mean, like I suffer from this in Commander because Commander in my head's a very different kind of Magic, and this is why I think it's good for people to play diverse formats because nothing makes you good at the attack step more than playing a lot of limited. because that's when you have to run subpar creatures that exist to turn sideways. That's when not every creature that you're playing is a 5/5 for 5. Sometimes you play a 3/5 for 5 and you go, okay, guess this is a card. But sometimes you have to do it. And so I think it's a great idea. You should be playing more Magic. You should be playing varied types of Magic, and you should be working on becoming a better player. Even if you're playing casually, it never hurts to just try to get a little bit better at what you're doing. Is there any other tangential things related to blocking? I know JC kept saying banding, so I do want to get the option to get banding in the mix if we want to talk about banding some more. Dave, you seem excited about banding.
No. There is one more thing with blocking.
Sure.
I know yet another test that a friend of mine taught me when I was getting decent at this game, and that's what he referred to as the chump test. So here's the scenario, right? I have Fume Spitter in play, which is a 1 black 1/1 that says sacrifice to put a -1/-1 counter on target creature. And my opponent has an Ironmer in play, which is a 2 generic mana 1/1 artifact creature that says tap to add a red to your pool. So what he explained to me is we're going to do the chump test. So you're going to attack with your Fume Spitter, and we're going to see if they block. And if they don't block, then we're going to kill his Ironmer by sacrificing this and putting a -1/-1 counter on it. So the question is our opponent a chump and just going to take 1 point of damage for no reason? Yes, they did. They did take that 1 point of damage for no reason. So it's one of those, like, your opponent has the option to kill your creature. They definitely should kill your creature. That's the right play. So they're attacking into your creature. Just kill the creature. They're doing it to try and weasel 1 more point out of you, and don't let it work.
That's an interesting one you're talking about there, because the only hope there, and I talk about this on stream sometimes, is sometimes you're hoping your opponent's going to make a mistake.
Yeah.
Because the correct move to make generally, particularly in the early stages of a game like Dave just described, is if you can take out mana production sources, you probably ought to. And so when you make that attack, they should be thinking about, okay, my opponent's attacking with their spitter. They're going to kill. If they're going to make the smart move is to kill my Ironmer, I should block this now because they're going to do that. Or you can say maybe they will try to keep it for something later, and next turn I'll get a save thing. But that's assuming your opponent's going to make the wrong choice. Go ahead.
I was going to say if they wanted to make that line, then you're winning that game anyway. You should be winning that game anyway.
Yeah.
If your opponent's just going to attack with the Fume Spitter, go, oh, they didn't block. That's wild. Go ahead. Tap with your mana, dude.
You can kill it during their upkeep.
Yeah, I mean, you can.
To establish dominance.
To establish dominance. To blow the fuck out by an instant. Like in Scar's draft, I don't think there was anything that would punish you for waiting for the upkeep, but unless they didn't have a red source and maybe they wanted to Galvanic Blast something that you had in play, but that's like a really narrow scenario where that could happen, I guess.
But then you could always just kill it in response. And
yeah. Then we got a Galvanic Blast out of our opponent's hand. And that's good, because that was premium removal in that format. And
that's the thing too. Like I see you talk about this all the time, Dave, on when you're streaming and stuff like this. When you mentioned they're on the no
tax, no blocks plan.
Yeah. No tax, no blocks plan. Is that like a lot of these early interactions with attacking and blocking, you can get information about how your opponent acts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So what I don't know, most of the time I don't know what they're playing around, but then they may also not know the format overly well. Like, you're obviously at a huge advantage if you know every card that's currently seeing play, or you have a good idea of what your opponent has, then you definitely have an advantage over them at that point. Like, if you know there's nothing in those colors that what they're representing that they could possibly have to make this attack bad, so
No, and while we're putting out Pearls of Wisdom, the whole assuming your opponent's going to make the right choice is generally what you want to do. The only time when I'm on stream that I'm like, well, hopefully our opponent just makes a mistake is when we're losing bad. And we just do the last ditch effort to, well, maybe they'll mess up.
Yeah.
Attack.
I've had that happen before. I was playing that dumb Luris deck against a Garuda one, and they milled themselves. They brought me to 1. And I grinded them out, and then they milled themselves by accident.
Yeah, I mean, in worst case scenario, your opponent could always just get hit by a meteor.
Yeah.
Like it's not a 0% chance that could happen.
Like,
It's never 0.
Their internet could disconnect. They could get
Yeah.
a brain aneurysm in person. They
Yeah,
could, they could have a death in the family.
like there were 3 times that I was like, I should concede. And if they didn't play it correctly,
Nah.
I for sure would have lost. But they didn't. They played wrong and killed themselves. And then I just turned back, not even attacking. I'm just like, go ahead.
I have both won and lost games because of that. So
Always play to your hours.
yeah, like think about how many times that you just made you just made like an onboard mistake that cost you the game.
I mean,
Your opponent can do that too.
and on the topic of blocking, quite really, I still make big blocking mistakes. Generally, I consider myself pretty good at blocking, but then when you bring in, I can't remember what format I was playing some Loris deck, and they had that stupid thing that whenever one of the creatures dies, it drains you for 1. And so I was about to win, and they attacked in, and I blocked wrong, I did my math wrong, I didn't count my triggers right, and they got me exactsies. I'm like, oh. And there was another one where it's like, oh, I'll put my life linker here, and then I'll gain the life and I'll be okay. Well, they had an oven, and they sacked the creature that was blocking my life linker, and I didn't get my...
Like, I've been getting bodied by ovens since that card got printed. Like, that's...
And the problem was, if I blocked correctly, the stupid drainy creature, if I would have blocked my life linker into that, then they would have had to sack it before the other creatures died, and I would have lived through that. But I wasn't thinking clearly enough about the outcomes of this combat step and their onboard stuff, and I lost because of it. So like, I would consider myself like I'm a pretty okay player. I'd say good, and good is about as far as I'm willing to say that I am as a Magic player. But like, I play a lot, and I still fuck up blocking.
Like, I'm really good at onboard comprehension and lines of play based off of known information, and I also still fuck up. Like,
so I get the moral. This is a very like Saturday morning cartoon kind of moral. It's we should always strive to be better, but it's okay if you make mistakes because sometimes things are hard.
but seriously, why are you not attacking right
But
now?
we really attack more often. This kind of turned into blocking and attacking the
You
topic.
can't talk about just one.
Oh, you can't talk about one with that. Yeah.
That's
No,
true.
yeah, I think it's like the moral of the story is you should be thinking to yourself, why am I not attacking? How does blocking here help me win the game?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. No, it's just things like that. And it's sometimes it's what's the saying? Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees. There's a lot going on in the game, but at the end of the game, you're trying to win the game generally by reducing your opponent's life points to 0. So you need to be always thinking about how that is happening. Even when you're playing a weird, dirtily format like Commander, you need to be thinking about like, because sometimes it's easy to drawing cards is good. So I'm just going to draw the most cards. And if I do that, then I'll win, which generally helps you win. But you should be drawing cards to help you win, not drawing cards for drawing cards' sake, which I know is blasphemy.
Listen here.
But
Listen here. That is easily the best thing you can do in this game. It's better than winning. Is drawing a bunch of cards. When you do both, then you're just a wizard. You're great at this game.
The best thing is when you win by making your opponent draw cards.
Yes.
But like, I don't know. Like I will die by that in Commander. I play aggressive decks and I play aggressively because like if you're not getting in there in Commander, the people will not be able to be killed when they need to be killed unless you're chipping their life totals down.
particularly if you always play against people playing mono white life gain. Those people really need to have their life totals kept in check.
Those people are already dead on the inside. It's fine.
I didn't say that. You said it.
That might be excessively mean. With their Johnny's Pride Mages and their Sarah's Descendants and Soul Wardens and... Damn it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, shall we wrap this one up?
I think
for tonight. Without talking about banding, look it up. It's kind of fun. You get to band your things together if you're attacking, and if they block one of us, they have to block all of us. And also, like, if I'm blocking, all of us get together and we get to...
Oh my god, we didn't even get to combat damage.
Well, I mean, that's something we can bring up next week. The history of how damage has worked.
Oh my god, yeah, that's good. And the change to how you assign damage to blockers that happened like 2 years ago that nobody fucking talked about.
I don't even know if I understand how it... Yeah, let's talk about that next week. That's some stuff. There we go. Okay, so that is everything we got for you all today. Well, except the post show for those of you watching live. And if you're having, bless you, Dave. If you're having
Holy
difficulties
shit,
with
they
the
still
live
hurt.
show,
Why do they still hurt?
it sounds like it hurt.
It hurt a lot. It hurt a
For
bunch.
those of you with the live show, even if you are not watching live on the Patreon, you'll get to watch the full pre and post show on the Patreon. So we do recommend you check that out. We had a really, really good pre-show talking about companions and a really solid conversation. So do check that out. And we'll catch you on stream. Dave and I are still streaming regularly, and hopefully
not,
we'll
not
get
so much for me this last week, but
we'll get
will
Dave back in the
change.
mix, and I'll be there for you on Wednesday at least, if not throwing in some additional streams, and hopefully we'll get JC streaming some Chandelar because that sounds ridiculous. We're working on it, so we'll catch you next week if we don't see you before then. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. Stay safe out there, and make sure to remember who you are.